evening. It's fantastic to be back here. My job is to say very little and to get Vasily to spill the beans on everything and to tell you as much as possible. Congratulations to Dylan. It's fantastic to see young people from this great city doing what they do. In Harmony, it's an important thing that you do here. Why do you do it?
Good evening, first of all. Yes, In Harmony is a very important project. It started quite a while back when we had this idea, observing fabulous programmer in Venezuela, which called El Sistema, which produced so many great young musicians, eventually forming their Simón Bolívar Orchestra and also well beyond. And it started a while back when we've seen this opportunity and we've seen that UK may improve the life of the children and may improve the musical life by organizing such projects. We were in Westminster, we were making one event in one of the rooms in Parliament, and quite a lot of MPs were passing by with a few young musicians and musicians from the Liverpool field, explaining what we want to achieve, how we want to improve the lives of this particular area in Everton, and also what are the future goals, ultimately to build almost like academy for the young musicians. And then the government made a decision to make funds behind it and to start such a project. I'm very glad to say that the project funding was extended for the future years. And it's very, very important. And results are amazing. I mean, those guys, they can tell you even more about the results, I believe. But the exam results in the school are much higher than it used to be. The general situation in the area was much improved in all areas. In criminal activity was much down. The living conditions of the people, because they started to value many more things and much broader view on the values of the life. In general, this situation was improving as well. And I hope we will extend the project even further. And if you haven't seen such an orchestra playing, it's an amazing experience. The kids starting age of 4 or 5, they're already in the orchestra. Some of them, they cannot put their feet at the floor because the cellos is on between. And we have a very special chairs for them, which are very small. It's amazingly organized and highly anticipated day by day by the kids and by the staffs of the Philharmonic Hall. So the orchestra really likes to improve that. So this is a step which allows us to, starting from young age, then promote the players into Liverpool Philharmonic Youth Orchestra, and then ultimately, after a while, probably into the senior orchestra. It's almost back to the football terminology, like the full structure of the football club, promoting the players from the very beginning until the very high professional level. And it's also amazing for society.
And do you feel that learning music actually helps to create good citizens?
I think so. I think that music, as most of the classical arts, it's a long-term investment into society. You need to be brave enough to invest for a certain number of years, 10, 15 years at least. Not only in music, but in literature, in arts, in poetry, in paintings, in all the classical arts. Because ultimately, more educated people are better workforce. At least it's proved by the scientists that better health, because you listen by the music which harmonize your philosophy, harmonize your mind, and ultimately it leads into better physical conditions, and it also by far less violent. So tensions in society goes down, you have better productive force, better workforce, and then you have broader vision in the problems. Broader vision in a way how we need to live in the current and the modern world. The problem is you need to invest in it for many, many years, because you need to grow the new generation, which will be such a powerful. Elections are every 4 years.
Well, that was obviously my cue to come back in there. So, I want to take you back to your own childhood and back to Russia. And what's happened to suddenly turn music, to make music such a big part of your life?
It was a very big educational part in Soviet Union by then. The Soviet Union had a lot of horrible sides, a lot of bad sides, but there have been good sides of it as well. So attention of the regime to the culture was much higher than it is now, for instance, because communists, they've seen a culture as a destructive function. So the people were given a lot of culture to distract them from the problems in politics and economy and everywhere. So they were spending a lot on that and a lot of attention. And in time when I started education, there were about 250 professional choirs, for instance, in the country. 250 full-time paid. And the people were singing in the choirs, giving concerts, and of course in Russia, especially in Orthodox religion, the choral tradition played a massive role. So by then, we had the special schools, just two in the country, one in Leningrad, one in Moscow, to supply conductors for such amount of choirs. And, it's communists, it's planned economy. They were planning that in 5 years, some amount of conductors will die, another will move, another will do something, so we need to supply 10. And because of that, it was a highly competitive school. No more than 25 boys were allowed to pass the exams at the beginning, and no more than 8, maximum 9, were allowed to finish the school at the age of 17 or 18.
And this is what you yourself went through?
Yeah, that's what I went through. At the beginning, there were about 450 boys for only 25 places. And if you passed, then every year you have a very, very hard study. We were studying music plus all the other normal education stuff, literature, science, maths, chemistry, biology, everything. And because of that, we were basically busy from 9 in the morning until 6, 7 in the evening every day. Plus choral lessons, plus concerts, plus many other things, private piano lessons in the school, then later conducting, all the musical disciplines, theory, solfeggio, harmony, everything. And every year, the boys who were scoring lowest points, they were eliminated, they were sent to the other schools. So for us, the principle was you must be a champion. And that creates such a workaholic living style in yourself from the very early stage. And also, St. Petersburg, Leningrad is a big city, 5 million inhabitants. And I was living by then in the north of the city, so every day I was traveling 1.5 hours to the school and then 1.5 hours back from the school, myself alone. Actually, the rules by then in Soviet Union were different, so I was doing that since, 8 or 9 years of old. So you were allowed to travel alone from such an early stage. And literally leaving the house at no later than 8 in the morning and coming back maybe 8, 9 in the evening. For me, the biggest reward was that if on Sunday I could have 2 hours to play football with my friends in the yard. But usually Sundays we had a concerts and other stuff. It's massive education. I must admit, some of the bits probably you will never use in your life, but at least you know them. Maybe useless, but you know them. And very broad education too. Sadly, by the end of the school, I've already seen that empire is collapsing, and I've seen that, especially in the musical world, all this choral culture was trimming down. So I think now out of 250, maybe 25 left, in the best case. So the rest of the people, they're singing in the church for very little money, they're doing some other jobs, they re-qualify themselves for something else. It's quite a dramatic story, because especially in the small places, it's very difficult to find other musical work. And for us, my fellows from the school, out of 9 we finished. There's another one who's doing choral conducting. There's another who works in Germany as a piano corps repetitor, and another one is in Milwaukee, who's teaching music in the school. The one who's in Israel selling insurance. Good job.
He's making the money.
I'm sure. The one in St. Petersburg who's selling Windows, not the computer, but real. He's doing incredibly well. But everyone out of 9 is very, very successful in different parts of the job, and that's a result of this hard training in school. So you lose your childhood, you lose it. You don't have so much time to spend, but then you gain this ability to work hard and understanding of the real values. You gain it from the very early age. So in that case, that was a good school. And then when I've seen that no much future to have a job right after the school, because at the beginning you had almost guaranteed job after the school. Probably it will be somewhere in Yakutsk in Siberia. But by the Soviet standards, you will be decently paid. So you will have probably not a luxurious life, but you will have a relatively good life again by Soviet standards. And then I've seen that there's no space for me, and then I decided to move into the symphony and opera conducting, and that's because that's more universal, it's more existent in the world. And then when I moved towards this part of my life.
So just to go back to the disciplines, I think for those of us who've been brought up in the UK education system, the idea of that level of potential failure every year, right the way through your teenage years, is completely alien to us. And what effect do you think it has on the young people?
Well, I can judge it by my son, who's now 10. It's a dual-faced thing. From one point of view, our interpretation of the failures, of the errors, was much more serious than here. Here, children give an impression that, okay, you made a failure, okay, try again. And there's no sense of guilt. Rather than in Soviet Union, in my school, you felt like if you made an error, that's a big guilt. So it's a sin to make an error. It's a very bad thing. So that you're underdoing something, you didn't learn something, you're not good enough. Rather than here, you see that the children are grown up in more harmonized style. Is it good or is it bad? It's a question which the future only will tell. It's also, there's not such a thing as, I found, it's my impressions of British education. The people try to, kids, they given an impression that we're all equal. So that in education here, they try to raise the bar from those who probably less bright at the moment to bring them up for those who are at the middle level. But they're not stimulating the guys to go really towards the skies. So that's my impression. Again, I might be wrong, but rather than in Soviet Union, the system was always making massive difference. So, for instance, I was very good at math also at the beginning. And because of that, I was always studied in the same class with my schoolmates. I was studied the program for 2 years older classes. And in the same moment, because the teacher was saying, no, you need to learn this because it's too easy for you. You know that. And there were others who were doing, for instance, in chemistry at a much higher level. And everyone was trying to kind of move towards a real peak of his education in the boys' school. And because of that, in the music world, you can see a lot of Russian soloists and the conductors through the years. In Britain, if you're talking about the real ingenious massive stars as soloists, violins, very few of them. Piano, there are a few of them. Singing, it's a few of them. I think it's probably part of those results. But at the same time, we have so many people who wanted to be a Paganini, never succeeded, and then the rest of their life is disappointingly sitting in the orchestra because he or she wanted and had potential to be a soloist, and then at a certain point realized that it won't happen. And the rest of the life is very cruel because it's still inside that I could have been this or that, because that's part of the training, part of the education. So for that, we have a different education. I'm not sure which one is better, to be honest. I'm not sure. The one here definitely saves your childhood. For sure. Yeah, so the children are here in general, they're much happier. Is it good, is it bad for the future? Probably for society is good. For individuals, again, that's a question of long debates. We probably need a few nights to debate that.
And you decided to bring up your family here in this area, and so obviously your son is educated here. So you must sense for him now there's a far greater sense of freedom that he has than maybe you had it back home.
He, at the time when I've been, by then in the 80s, of course, he has much bigger sense. But the whole world is changed so much. We live in so much global world now. So much. By then, you're starting from mobile phones, when they were introduced. Just about 15 years ago, not more. And actually, mass usage of the mobile phones is no more than 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago in the world. So then in 10 years, nowadays, in our life, you cannot even imagine without them. Before, you need to call someone, you need to have a stationary phone, you need to send a mail, you send a mail, now you just click the button. And all that connects the people into sort of global conglomerate, again, for good and for bad. So everything is known. What we're saying, what we're talking right now is probably someone observing already in some very far country, immediately, which is a global phenomenon. Of course, children now, they have much bigger freedom. What worries me in my son and in this generation, it really worries me. When we were children, we wanted to do something. We wanted to be a doctor to cure the people. We wanted to be a policeman to protect the people. We wanted to be a scientific person to explore something, a spaceman to conquer the space, or a car maker to make the car. Now, with all the children, and with my son too, the main question, how much will I earn by doing such thing? And the value has changed enormously. You talk, my son asking me, so that if I will be a doctor, how much will I earn? I'm thinking, well, it depends on why do you ask me what do you want to do. So what kind of doctor do I need to be to buy a BMW and a big house? It's worrying, because it leads to the story that quite a lot of this generation may end up of not doing what they love in their lives, simply because they thought that it will bring them more money. This occupation or that occupation. And ultimately, that's a major depressing moment in all your life. If you're doing not what you like, if you're just doing it to earn money, that actually doesn't lead to anywhere, neither in a society or in an individual level. So for that, they are different. But probably our parents were saying something the same about us. It's eternal conflict of the generations.
You made a decision to follow a musical pathway, something that you love, but you actually, people may not know, very good at sports as well. You could have gone down a sports pathway.
Yeah, I've been a professional swimmer in the childhood as well. So once it came to the point when I was given the choice to spend 6 days a week in a swimming pool or in the school, plus coaches started to give you interesting vitamins, I've decided, that was one of the few wise decisions in my life. I've decided to go to music, not only because I loved it more, somehow I figured out that by now, if I would be a swimmer, I would be hopefully a live person, but maybe a trainer in some swimming pool, I will be retired. And the chances to win Olympic gold are really minor, miserable. So, by now, probably, I will have the rest of my life past, and we'll think about, okay, what's left? what's in the future. Rather than the musician career is much longer, and in particular, conductor's career is lifetime career. And some musicians from the orchestra even say that some of conductors die on the podium, and some of them dying far before the last concert.
So basically you're saying that your decision to go into music was actually a sort of set of mathematical probabilities?
Not only mathematical probabilities. There was a set of complex factors, of course. I've seen my fellows from the swimming pool in 2 years. They were really guerrillas. Of course, 6 days training, I appreciate that, but I believe those interesting vitamins also made some changes in them.
Let's talk a little bit about Liverpool. Wind back to 2006, when you first came here. You got that phone call and you were told that the orchestra would like to appoint you as principal conductor. Why Liverpool?
It's not quite a phone call. That was a bit longer process. First I came here in 2004 in December because actually the orchestra had no conductor for one of the concerts, and either someone pulled out probably or they couldn't find, and very low budget. So they called the agency and asked, do you have someone young and cheap? And I just started my collaboration with this agency, and they said, okay, right, we will send him to Liverpool. And I came here, first rehearsal was not on stage, it was a Bootle town hall, which is not the building, but it's a little bit boomy for the orchestra rehearsals. And also by that time there were massive refurbishment works around. That was a good school at the very beginning because they were banging all around. And then I asked, can we stop them for this rehearsal at least? And I said, no, why? And then there was a good concert, and I felt a very strong relation with the orchestra. It's a very mysterious thing, actually, how the orchestra and the conductors feel this connection. It's a little bit the same about love. We don't know exactly what it is, why it disconnects. And I felt really strong connection with the orchestra. I felt big potential in the orchestra. By then, not yet worked out in details, and I knew the ways how I can improve the orchestra and how I can make their playing better and their lives better ultimately. So that was after the first concert. Then administration of the orchestra been tracking me at the different places, just visiting my concerts, sometimes openly, sometimes secretly. I even had a meeting with few orchestra musicians in a pub in London because they just probably wanted to see me drinking, and well, it's important, hiring a Russian conductor, you need to know what's going on. So then we get to conclusion. We started to open discussion. We get to conclusion in a place nearby in Santa Cruz de Tenerife. Of course, it's one of the most English places in the world. And then we started to work together, and since then we are on this journey.
So you've got 1,200 of your closest friends in the hall with you tonight. So just between us, what does a conductor actually do?
Yeah, that's a very famous comics when the conductor walks on stage, opens the score, and then says, wave your hands till the music stops, then bow. But, ultimately we're giving ideas to the orchestra, how the work with the orchestra rehearsing period. What you see on stage as a concert is the top of the iceberg. And it's just a cream, because before you need to work much harder on the rehearsals. For instance, we had 6 hours yesterday, 6 hours today of rehearsals here on stage for the concert tomorrow, which will last probably 1 hour 40 minutes of the pure music, clean music. And because of that, the preparation takes very long, of course. And your function in in music side is to show the orchestra exactly how to play the music. So to say to them, a lot of it written in the score, but some of the things is still unspoken. So to say them how short or how long we play this note sometime, to say to them intonation, where it needs to be sharper or flatter, or what you that make it like with a car. You have a car, but you need to have it tuned. And better conductor is a better tuner. But that's work in rehearsal. In the concert, of course, it's inspiration. Of course, it's about what is the music about, what are the pieces about. I'm telling a lot of it to the orchestra in rehearsals too. But then let's not forget, notes, music notes, are abstract science. I said it before, they're created by Italian monk. Simply because he didn't want it to stay up at 6 o'clock in the morning on Sundays to rehearse with the choir certain chorals for the church service. So, because of that, Pope Gregory later did this Gregorian chants, and he made these circulars. And this monk, I've been in Arezzo in Italy, it's a small town, and the picture of this monk, in my point of view, he had a few bad habits in his life. And I think it was difficult for him to wake up at 6 in the morning on Sunday and to rehearse with the choir. So he had a brilliant idea. Why won't we do Ut nominum dominum in 1, 2, then Rex tremendi majestatis, next one, Miserere domine, Fac solvetes, Sol et seculorum, Lacrimosa. And then he said, well, then I don't need to wake up. I just saying them, Ut nominum dominum, and they're all on the same pitch. Fantastic, amazing. And then he was asleep. And then, in a while, many other monks probably found this idea very useful. And then Pope changed it. He added a 7th note by his circular saying, Sic seculum seculorum. That needs to be like that. And then he changed the first one because he didn't want it to start from Ut. He wanted to start from God. And because of that, the first one is Domine. And that's how those Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si were created or existed. And when you think back, you think, what's the purpose? Just to not wake up on Sunday morning. So the notes are abstract. Much more important, what's behind it? What the composer wanted to say? What were the historical context, literature context? What were the pieces about? What's the piece of music? And that's what you ultimately need to give to the orchestra and then to the audience. Because you don't need to know that you feel very excited in this passage of music simply because it's not mezzo forte but forte and played with such a staccato pizzicato in a certain articulation at a certain time by the groups of musicians who were rehearsing together for the last 6 hours just to give you this excitement. You just feel excited, and that's ultimately our goals, emotions. But to go to those emotions, you need to work out the basics, and that's what we're doing in rehearsals. Luckily, after 8 seasons, it's less and less technical questions which we need to sort out with the orchestra, and more we're talking about music. We're just sharing ideas with, for instance, I don't need to say that you need to extend this phrase for the next 7 bars. I would just say, this music is about love. And then the people are just doing it because they know how to deal with that.
Do you have an emotional relationship with the city of Liverpool?
Of course. I mean, I live here in the world, and I'm passing by Liverpool every day.
What's special about it?
Creativity, in the good and in the bad. People creative in making good things, they're also creative in making boundaries. So the creativity, there's passion, of course, also passion of love, the passion of hate as well. There's this sort of rhythm and pulse of the city, which is very, very high. And also, on the music life, not only in classical music, I think it's unprecedented that almost every night you can find live music at a very high quality, pop, folk, jazz, all kind of music. And on Friday, Saturday nights, every single place, every single cafe, restaurant, bar has live music. Nowhere else this exists. And of course the people, I must admit, very open, very friendly people. In that sense, Liverpool as a gate from UK, historically, to West, especially to America, and St. Petersburg as a window which Peter the Great did on the wall into the West, they are similar. So the spirit of the people and how the people support each other. Liverpool was a city, and still a city, who suffers quite a lot from economic troubles, from other troubles, and because of that people have a habit to support each other, which is quite unprecedented in many other places. So it's a complex of the facts, and I can't say one fact. It's just I feel home when I'm walking on the streets here, and I feel like I belong to this place.
Do you feel that organisations like the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic, like Liverpool John Moores, that they have a role to play in defining a city like Liverpool?
Yes, we are ambassadors. University and the orchestra, we are ambassadors on different layers, in education, in arts, visiting other countries, giving tours as the orchestra, as university, giving educational programs in other countries. It's very important. And of course, within the city, as been said before, we have the program together, giving access to the students to the classical music. And also for the orchestra, improving the life of society by the sound, by the concerts, by the music. It's very important. And we are probably one of the finest products of the city for how many? 200 years? More than 200 years, yeah.
It fascinates me. I spend a lot of time travelling up and down the country and visit a lot of cities and speak to a lot of orchestras, a lot of universities. And I think the partnership, the far-reaching programme for students coming into the city that Liverpool John Moores has is unprecedented. The idea of 25,000 students coming and being engrossed in a live classical music concert is fantastic. And I just wonder, how important is it for classical music that we continue to build these audiences and we expose people to it?
Of course it's very important, Classical music, it's an opinion. The people think it belongs only to people of certain age, which I don't think so. I think that children, students, they at least need to be given a chance to listen to the concert. A lot of them, before we started such programs, they would never travel to the concert because they were having no chance due to lack of funds of their parents or lack of interest or other things. And I think more and more young people will be in the classical music. Better it's for them than it is for us. We have almost a quarter of our audience under 33 years of age, which is an amazing achievement. And for that, of course, anything we can do to bring younger audience, we always will try to do. But there is also a natural life process. When you are a child, you're probably brought to the concert by your parents or by your school. So you're visiting the concerts in that terms. When you're a student, you may go to the concert, but a lot of students will prefer to spend nights differently and spend the budget differently. Even if, comparing to football, for instance, we are so much cheaper to visit. Then, after the universities, you're struggling to find a job, and nowadays especially, so you're very tight on budget. You're also starting a new family, and for that, you need to buy a new place, mortgages. It's very, very difficult. And the children appears. And then, with the children, you need to have a nurse, you need to find someone, and you need to pay for it. And then you budget even tighter. So only when the children are grown up, roughly at 45, 50, roughly, now it's getting higher, but then a lot of people realize that there's again some spare time in their life, and they want to fill this time with something valuable. And by then it's a real understanding that this is a real value, this is a real asset. So that's why, from that age, a lot of people coming back to the concert halls and to the opera houses just to be part of the classical music. So there is this natural process of how life going on nowadays, but it's also, we try to encourage everyone to come and to enjoy it and to share the passions.
Now, looking ahead, you are coming up to your 9th season here, and you've made a fantastic long-term commitment to working with the orchestra in the future. What are your ambitions for this orchestra?
Well, as I've said at the beginning, we need to be at the top of the Premier League.
And how far away from being at the top of the Premier League are you?
It's, it's not like football, because there's goals and scores and points. With orchestras, it's much more subjective. Some people like this, some people like that, which is one of the beauties of classical music, because everybody can understand it on the very personal level and a personal way. So for that, we are well acknowledged. We are touring, we getting quite a lot of awards for recordings, for the concerts, and massive reviews. For me, the most important that the audience growing every year. And I hope after this place will be reopened, there will be even more of the grow. One of the reasons I was actually having a discussion, can we expand capacity of the hall? But no, we can't. No, that will lose acoustics, and that's what we definitely don't want to lose. So for that, that's my best results in the current years. I mean, the orchestra, how the orchestra developing, how we playing, it is important, and acknowledgement in the world, it is important. But the most important are you. So the most important are the audience members and the quantities and the qualities. So, more people will come to the concert hall, more people will visit the concerts. Further up we are in our mission.
And for you personally as a musician, what are your unfulfilled ambitions? Will you be still on the podium? Will you still be on the podium at 90?
Who knows? First you need to be alive at 90. I hope I will follow my words for myself, because I gave a promise to myself that once I will feel that I'm just earning money by making concerts, I will stop. I had this advice from Sir George Solti, nearly 20, no, not 20, but soon it will be 20 years back. He went in St. Petersburg, working with St. Petersburg Philharmonic, and they had quite a struggle between him and the orchestra. He was a tough man, and the orchestra didn't like to play Beethoven and Brahms on European style. They wanted to play it on the Tchaikovsky style. But he was really tough and insisting on them to follow what he wanted. And they had quite a struggle in the rehearsals. Comments from the orchestra were quite rude in Russian. They knew that he didn't speak Russian, so they didn't comment who they were. And only in the dress rehearsal, the orchestra suddenly, because it's a dress rehearsal, they need to at least make towards a sanitary level. So they tried what he wanted, and actually they found it incredibly useful for them. They found, that actually sounds very well in all departments. And then at the concert, they played the best Beethoven and Brahms I've heard from them at their level. Because once again, there's an orchestra heavily engaged by Tchaikovsky, Rachmaninoff, Shostakovich, all heavy stuffs only. And then I came to Sir George, introduced myself, say that I'm a young conductor, study here, I went into your rehearsals, I've seen that there's sometimes difficult life. So what will you suggest to me? What will be your advice? And he said to me, a thing which I thought he just said, get off me, young stupid lad. He said to me, I wish you that music always will be your hobby.
And he's right. He's enormously right. Further I'm going in my life, I understand that that's the most important thing. It needs to be your hobby. It needs to be something what you're doing because you can not to do it. It's something what you really need to be eager to do. Otherwise, it's just the same 7 notes to not wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning on something. And that's what I say to myself, that once I'll feel that I don't want to do it, it's just because, I need to earn some money, I will stop.
Well, time is marching on, and I want to give you the opportunity to be able to ask Vasily some questions. So when I go and sprint over there, which is a rare thing that happens, I will just ask you to give Vasily a huge round of applause and think of your questions.